Yes, sir.
How's everything going?
Man, it's going great.
All right. Well, appreciate you being here this morning on another episode. I think this is going to be another episode. I don't know. We'll find out what the marketing team does with it.
Yeah.
But another episode of the Difference podcast is what we call this, I think.
Mm-hmm.
It's really just us talking about you and about EAB, right? So with that being said, let's go way back to the beginning.
Okay.
Way
Right.
back to the beginning. And let's just talk about, how you kind of came to know EAB and then joined the team here to start out with.
Yeah, so we got to go all the way back to the 1900s is what my kids say.
Oh, my goodness,
Yeah.
man. Like when dinosaurs roamed the earth, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Uphill in the snow both ways.
Exactly.
Yeah. Right. No, I started here in June of 98. I had graduated from Stephen F. Austin.
Go Lumberjacks, right?
Right, yeah. Back in, I guess it was 97 is when we graduated there. Looking for a job, of course, and things like that. The way it all started, I'm living proof of it's not what you know, it's who you know. My mother was a facility director for the community college up in Dallas area in Collin County.
Okay.
And she worked there, and she said, there's these people that come in and work on the air conditioning, and they have all these instruments and all this kind of stuff. She said, it's a really good company. They know a lot about it. And I was like, what? I don't understand any of that. She said, well, you're going to interview with them. She said, you can go interview wherever you want, but you will interview with these people. Yes, ma'am. I sat down with Mr. Underwood, Earl, and interviewed with him and laid it on pretty thick. Had nothing to lose. So I was like, okay, well, let's tell him what he wants to hear. He said, do you know anything about what we do? I said, no, sir, I don't, but I do understand that you are the best in the business, and I committed to myself whenever I graduated that it didn't matter what job that I had, I wanted to work for the best, and you are the best, and that's why I'm here today. And
you didn't tell him anything about Mom telling you?
No. No, I'm here because I was told to be. So conversation went on and things like that. And he said, well, we work with our hands and we do this and we do that. And said, okay. Honestly and truly, I had interviewed other places. But so my degree is in agriculture, animal science. Got nothing to do with air conditioning at all. However,
what would you think you were going to be doing when you came out of school?
Something more along the lines of ranch management.
Okay.
Something like that. Down in Nacogdoches, it's all about chickens and poultry.
Yes, you're right.
And all that kind
of
stuff.
Poultry
It's that or piney woods.
Yeah.
You're either going to be forestry or working for Tyson's or Pilgrims.
Yeah.
And I did not want to do that at all. So I felt like something along the lines of ranch management, farming, cattle industry, something like that, would be the direction that I would go. And then this all turned up, and I swore to everything that was holy I would not move back to the DFW Metroplex because I graduated from high school in Plano.
Okay.
Plano East. I have to make that distinction, Plano East.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That's another story for another day,
right,
why you have to make that distinction, right?
Right. But wanted out of the Metroplex, didn't want the big shuffle and population and all that stuff, and really, really enjoyed Nacogdoches. But couldn't get a job, had to eat, So
you're sitting down with Earl,
mm-hmm.
and how did Earl convince you to do all the things you didn't want to do?
Right. So he's sitting there, and I had interviewed with other firms, but more it was New Holland tractors or Ford tractors.
Now, that sounds
the blue
like fun
ones.
right there.
Yeah. And I was like, man, I think this is something that I could do. And they were like, well, we got to send you up to our corporate office, and we ought to let you know something in about 2 weeks. So I was sitting there with Earl, and he said, if I were to offer you this job, how long do you think it would take you to make a decision? I was like, well, those guys said 2 weeks, so I figured how about 2 weeks? He said, okay, well, I'd like to offer you this job. And I was like, oh, what am I going to do now? So left there and, of course, contacted my mother, and she said, how'd it go? And I was like, well, they offered me the job. She goes, well, you got some decisions to make. And so we talked it through, and it was worked out for the best, I guess, because here we are 27 years later.
Yeah, sounds like it.
Yeah. So it was great. Came in on the first day. Field operations manager at that time was Alan Shamrock. Didn't know him. We had an office that was, man, smaller than your first apartment, if you're going to try to figure that out. But anyway, then another guy walked in, and Alan had told me, he goes, well, this is the guy you're going to be working with. He said, hello, my name's Glenn Varner.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So you started working with Glenn.
Paired up with Glenn there in the beginning and worked with Glenn for about a year and a half. Glenn tells the story much, much later that Earl told him that he was going to be partnered up with me, or I would be working with Glenn. And Earl was like, man, we got this kid right out of school, fresh out of school. I think he's going to really do a great job. Seems motivated and willing to learn and all that kind of stuff. And Glenn said, oh, out of school. He's like, yeah, is he a mechanical engineer? He said, no, some kind of animal science, agriculture. And Glenn was like, a veterinarian? You got me a veterinarian to work with? And so that was the running joke, the entire time I've known Glenn. So, but it was good. Worked out. And then, back then things were different. Man, I tried to think about it, how many people worked here whenever that was taking place. And in Dallas, I don't know if we had more than 6 or 7 teams in total.
That sounds about right for
Yeah.
the late 90s.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So it was interesting. Everyone knew everybody, and we still do today. But when you need help, it was more of a phone call that back then cell phones, honestly and truly, had just come out. Because I remember within the first couple of weeks, Glenn got a company phone, and I was like, wow, that's amazing. Wow. Yeah. So
yeah, you guys probably used to have. I've heard stories. I never had to do it because I was about 5 years behind you as far as starting here. But I've heard you used to have to go to the job trailer, and they had the phone in the job trailer.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess everybody used the phone in the job trailer, so you'd have to go and call the office and tell them where you were.
Right.
Right.
You called in twice a day. In the morning, you called in to let them know you were at work, and then after lunch or around lunchtime, you would call and see if there were any messages.
Yeah.
And then at the end of the day, you'd call and see if anybody had called in the afternoon that you needed to return a phone call or something like that.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing, right?
Yeah.
About the way it was back then to now.
They had pagers.
Yeah.
And so, pager, and then you had to go find a phone and call and all that kind of stuff. But it was wild. It was a wild time back then to get to a given job site. They would run a copy of what was a Mapscope, which was a book that thick of the Metroplex.
Yeah. I remember we had those here in Houston too. Yeah.
Yeah. So you had to look up where you were, and
that was part of the blue book that you got.
Yeah.
It was all. I remember they used to stick the maps in there.
Right. In the brown folder with all the blue books in it and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, that was the directions, and everybody at least knew their way around. You didn't have to thumb through 6 or 7 pages to get from your house to wherever the job was.
Sure.
And now today we take everything for granted. That was one of the biggest things that I tried to instill in my boys was direction and being able to follow directions, and it worked with some.
Not rely on the GPS on your phone, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's definitely a big change in generations, right?
Yeah, it aggravates the fire out of them whenever they're like, Dad, how do we get here? And I was like, well, you go out to 205 and head north, and when you get to 30, you turn east. Yeah. And they're like, I have no idea what you just said. And I was like, go to the gas station, turn right.
That's funny.
When you get to the big road, turn left.
Yeah, exactly, right. Well, so with that being said, let's talk about what were you and Glenn working on initially? Kind of what projects did you start out on with Glenn, and
Right.
and we'll go from there.
Yeah. So Glenn was he did a lot of work in downtown Dallas. And
I've heard a few of those stories. That's kind of how he met his wife, wasn't it?
yeah,
There's an interesting story. We'll go there another time. But
right.
yeah,
It is where he met Carrie. But yeah, he did the lease work stuff. And
that
so
was Trammell Crow and some others, right?
Trammell Crow, Ross Tower, the building has changed its name many times, but you see it in commercials. It's a building with a hole in the top of it. Today, I think it's called Chase Tower.
Okay.
So that was very interesting. And then he and I did another building that was a 19-story building, but it was across the highway. I forget the name of it because we called everything by address because the building names would change. Anyhow, that lease work stuff at that time was simply setting up boxes. That's all it was.
Were they pneumatic or DDC?
DDC had just come on the scene.
Yeah.
So there were some pneumatics, but DDC was coming on the scene, and controls and computers and all that kind of stuff. So we were transitioning more into the digital age than we were the pneumatics. The new building that we did that was 19 stories was all DDC. And so that's when I started learning about, instead of just setting up boxes, which I had been doing for a few weeks, then you brought in this thing called an air handler. And
Yeah.
I was like, oh, wow, look
Yeah.
at that.
Yeah.
And then at one point we were setting up the air everywhere. And then he said, so tomorrow we're going to do the water balance. I was like, water balance? He's like, yeah, we got to balance.
There's water in this building?
I was like, water's not even in the name of this company. It's engineered air balance. What are we doing with water? So then you get, that experience, and you begin to bring it all together and understand how everything kind of works together.
Yeah.
And then with working with Glenn, hospital in Plano was doing an addition, and we had started that. And as that project started going, this led to that, and things happened, and so we transitioned, and I went to go work with, I think it was Gordon Black after that.
Okay, so you worked under Gordon for
Yeah.
a little while.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Gotcha. Gotcha. And then, so sounds like, let's just kind of talk. We'll fast forward a little bit, but so you're working, doing tenant lease space, high-rise type stuff in downtown Dallas, and then you did some hospital work.
Mm-hmm.
Did you stick with anything, or were you kind of bouncing around for a little while? And then how did you let's kind of progress through to get you to where you are today as
where
a
we
PM,
are today.
right?
Yeah, right. So after all that, and you start to get out on your own, it was schools that I was exposed to the most. And during that time, traveled quite a bit down to Killeen, and did schoolwork down there. And I would literally spend my summers down there with a couple guys driving home on the weekend. But would spend the summers down there getting the schools ready to go and all that kind of stuff. And then it progressed into...
that was before we had a San Antonio office that did that work up that way, I guess, right?
May have been.
Yeah.
Okay. But, spent 2 or 3 years down there. And then coming back, it was the school districts in the area. Plano ISD, Mesquite ISD, things like that. And it has grown from there. The hospital work was the Parkview Hospital in Fort Wayne, Indiana.
Yeah.
And
let's talk about that one. That was a big job. I mean, a couple other folks have talked about, how we got that job.
Mm-hmm.
But since you were on it, and Kevin was leading that project, right? So what's the story? How did we end up getting the contract on that job?
So, from what I remember, because I wasn't heavily involved in that part, The way I came about was I had worked with Kevin on
And we're talking about
multiple
Kevin
things.
Underwood, just to
Right.
be clear. Yeah.
Yeah. Shoot, Kevin and I traveled a lot and did the MCI WorldCom data centers.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Most people don't even remember that company, because that was
Not at all.
kind of part of the .com bubble, right?
Right. So we had traveled together doing all that kind of stuff and seemed to get along pretty well.
Yeah. You guys were in New York City in the Twin Towers,
Mhm.
like right before 9/11, weren't you?
Kevin was. I wasn't
Okay.
there for that. That was Abe Billings
Okay.
that they were there. But Kevin and I did go back to New York for another time after
Okay.
the Twin Towers. And so to tell people that once upon a time you could go and meet someone at the airport at the gate
Mhm.
blows their mind.
Yeah.
So getting to witness that piece of history and that transition on how everything changed was pretty wild.
Yeah.
But Kevin and I did all that kind of traveling and whatnot, and realized we could get along together for an extended period of time.
And that's always a big deal.
Yeah.
You got to put people together, right?
Right. So I remember that we had heard about this hospital taking place in Indiana, and we were like, ooh. And I thought at that time our office had handled it real well, because the first question they asked is, would anybody like to volunteer to go? And I was like, oh, that's pretty smart, rather than voluntold to go.
Yeah.
So talked about it, and about that time we realized, or it was realized, that Kevin was going to be asked to run the project. And Kevin and I were talking a little bit later, and he's like, man, you think you want to go with me? And at that time, my three boys were 7'5", something like that.
Oh man, you're right in the thick of it.
Mm-hmm. And so I was like, clearly I've got to go home and talk to Karen and see how this is going to go. And she totally shocked me. I said, well, opportunity, go up there with Kevin, do this kind of stuff, and see what happens. And she said, how long? I said, about 6 months, and knew right then and there that I'd lied to her. And so she was like, I think we can make that work. And I was like, okay. So I came back, told Kevin, I was like, yeah, man, I'll go with you. Then we realized we were going to be up there for 3 weeks at a time and come home for 1 week. That got tough.
Yeah, I can only imagine.
Mm-hmm. And then, that's what we did for a year. We were there for a year. Kevin and I left the office in February of 2011, and Jeremy White and I loaded up the truck in Fort Wayne in February of 2012 and drove back.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, that was something. But for me, that was my primary hospital work right there, and everything that went along with that. But heck of an experience. A lot of stories.
Yeah, and you guys talk, just because there's an interesting story there about how the manpower on the job.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So because we had to, it was a union job,
Mm-hmm,
right?
Mm-hmm.
And so we ended up bringing the team leads up, but then you guys had local sheet metal guys that were helping, right?
Yeah, we had to hire local guys to help us, and we hired two guys on this project, two different guys. Went well. They were good guys. Interesting perspective on things, know. One guy was pretty close to retirement, so we were working 10-hour days at that time, and so around hour 8, 9, he'd slow down a little bit, but he did fine. And the other guy was just glad to be there,
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, he was. What do you need me to do? What do you need me to do? And he did it. So that went on for about a year. Maybe 8 months, something like that, because we did, as things wrapped up, we finally got to a point where we didn't need their help anymore. We kind of handled it ourselves.
You guys wrapped everything up.
Yeah, but we were operating off of a 3-man rotation with the team leads, and so at any given point, there wound up being like 1 weekend a month where somebody was there by themselves as we rotated out of it and that kind of stuff. But yeah, it was something. Again, a lot of good stories. Still talk to one guy from Fort Wayne today. So I talked to him just the other day where his alma mater and my alma mater were playing in the quarterfinals.
Oh, okay. So you maintained some relationships.
Yeah, a little bit.
That's pretty neat. And I think there were some folks on the design team that ended up. That was the reason why we did the other hospital in in Indiana, the Eskenazi campus.
Yeah,
David ended up leaving.
Right.
Leading. Excuse me.
Right. And I think, if I remember it correctly, the gentleman on the design team was a previous employee of EAB.
Okay. It's interesting the way those relationships happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what it all leads to, and the whole always try to part ways with people on projects or just in life on good terms, because you never know
absolutely
how it's going to come back, and
it's a big industry, but it's a small family.
Right.
And
right.
you got to realize that, and everything's built around our relationships with folks, right?
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting. So you got back from Indiana,
and
then how'd you kind of get from there to being a senior PM?
Right. So
as you are today.
So from returning from Indiana, then DFW was doing another project, and it was a terminal renovation improvement project, something like that. They called it TRIP. And so we were contracted to do Terminal A, and they were renovating Terminal A, Terminal B, and Terminal E at that time. And so they divided the terminal up into thirds, and away we went. And we were working for a mechanical contractor at that time. And so just kind of started, and they started over here on this side, because those terminals are horseshoe shaped.
Yep.
And so we started over here on this third, and then I think we did the middle and then the last third. But that was where they started putting me more into a role of, hey, it's yours, man. Call if you need help. Okay. So you go to the meetings, you interact with the contractors, a lot of discussion about MEP coordination and things like that. At one point, I remember talking with somebody, and it wasn't specifically that project, but I said, can you believe this project doesn't have an MEP coordinator on it? And the guy looked at me and said, yeah, it does. Yeah, they do, and it's you. And I was like, what?
I was going to ask you when you had the realization that we tend to fill that role, right?
Yeah. So you kind of roll into it, and that's about the time you start figuring out, I might actually know what I'm talking about here ever so often. And you can carry on those conversations, and it's a good feeling, and you truly help. You feel like you're helping the project move forward. When you're involved in those conversations with a group and in the meetings and things like that, and people actually listen to what you have to say, and you're providing value just to the team to help make decisions and move forward, pretty good feeling. So went through that TRIP project. Like each phase was about a year.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So it took some time to make it through all of those. Now, you wind down phase one, and then they got to get started on phase two, and there's a lag in between there before they're ready for us again. So during the lag, okay, back to the schools. And doing
gotcha.
This,
So you were kind of going back and forth between the airport and K through 12. Gotcha.
So then more work with K through 12. That's where I've spent most of my career, is K through 12. Yeah. And so then, wrapped all that stuff, and I truly don't remember how the whole senior PM thing came up, but I've been doing that for about 10 years now.
Yeah, and you handle most of the K through 12 in the Dallas office now, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's pretty cool. So you have another talent or service that you do, right? And I think it goes back I mean, you teach at Collin County, right?
I do. Collin County.
Yeah.
Well, they call it Collin College now. I've always known it as Collin County Community College.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we've been very fortunate ever since that college has opened. EAB has done work for it. So they have multiple campuses within the county of Collin, right?
Sure.
Collin County.
Yeah. So and going back, I mean, that's how your mom knew of
Yeah.
EAB way
Right.
back when, right?
Right,
And
yeah.
so they're a client, and
Mhm.
then how'd you take over? Because I think there were some other folks that were teaching out there too, right?
Yeah. So in 2020, COVID, all that stuff, they built a campus in Allen, and that campus was intended to be for the trades.
Mm-hmm.
So they have construction management, they've got electrical, they've got plumbing, they've got nursing facility in there also. So we actually do the work in that building, right? The whole test and balance takes place and those kinds of things. Well, through relationships in Plano ISD, we had a Plano ISD project going on also, and I was talking to their cluster manager, is what they call it, that was overseeing the project. And then we had another meeting, and he wasn't there. And I was like, huh. Another meeting, and the guy wasn't there. Somebody else showed up that I know, and I was like, hey, man, where'd he go? He was like, he went to go teach over at that new campus that Collin opened up. I was like, no kidding. He's like, yeah. So somewhere in there, we had a phone conversation, and he said, you know, we're doing a HVAC program, and he said, I would like to bring test and balance into the classroom. I was like, really? So yeah, that's a fantastic idea. I think it's great. Not enough people know what it is, what test and balance is. So one thing led to another, and they asked if I would like to teach the course. They said, can you kind of come up with some kind of curriculum? Sure. So what I tell the people that go through the class, because I've been doing it since 21 or 22. I'm horrible with dates, but been doing it for a little while. And it's exposure. It's an 8-week course that is 2 nights a week for 4 hours.
Okay.
So it can be overwhelming
I would imagine.
at times. And then I live an hour from there. So
Yeah. So it's
get home a little late.
Quite a bit
Right.
to go and do that.
But just tell the guys, I'm not here to turn you into balancers. I'm here to let you know that this trade exists. Here's some interesting things about it, and talk about it, and show you a few things on how it all works, and kind of go from there.
Why do you do that, Brian? What drives you to teach about testing and balancing?
Because, you know, a lot of times we talk about it, and it's a specialized industry,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a trade.
Yeah.
And I think just in general, we need more.
I would agree with you.
And so there is a need for it. I feel like it's one of those things where I truly look at it as, if I can do this, then a lot of people can do this. You know,
Sure.
It's one of those, if I can, anybody can. But you just have to know about it.
Yeah.
And I do enjoy what I do a lot. And I think that just to pass it along to others and let them know that, you know, the most, and it's a unique way to get a trade, what do I want to say? Understanding of a trade, because it's air.
Yeah.
And you got to wrap your mind around something that you can't see.
Yeah.
And that's usually one of the first questions I ask the class is, how do you know if an air conditioning system's operating correctly? And it's one that you don't notice or feel, you know. You don't even know that it's on. I said, that's what we do. I do feel like we provide a valuable service to clients in efficiency and getting that system to operate the best that it can. And at the end of the day, you're saving them energy cost is what we're doing. But why do I teach? I enjoy it.
Do you think any of your time here at EAB has influenced you to do that?
Sure, yeah. Passing along information. I mean, that's what we do when we partner up with somebody.
Sure.
We're handing down information. The reality of the situation is that, well, I'm not going to be able to do this forever. There will come a point in time where I will no longer do this. Just meaning, well, everybody retires.
Yeah, everybody retires
Right.
at some point, right?
And so I've learned a whole lot of stuff. And I do think everyone learns different. And I feel like I have a little bit different approach where I can connect with people and say it differently. A lot of the interaction we have, especially with the design team, of course, is with engineers.
Yep.
And engineers can speak at a very high level. You got to be able to understand that. And
Sure.
you take these young people that are trying to learn a trade and take something that's engineering based and break it down and explain it to them in a manner that they can understand. It's pretty rewarding.
Absolutely. I would
yeah.
agree with you as well. And that's why I enjoy, I teach here in the training center, and we see the same thing here. You know,
Right.
you get some folks coming in, a lot of new folks to the industry from all over the place. And, they come in and maybe they've held a hood, maybe they've done a little bit of proportioning, things like that. And you start teaching them the engineering behind it. And they, at first they look at the equation guide and they go, my gosh, this is a lot of math, right? And you go, it's going to be okay. We're going to walk you through it, and we're going to take it a little bit at a time. And, you spend some time with them, and they realize it's not that hard. It's not as hard as they think it is. And a lot of people with math, when you were doing it in school, if you were just doing raw algebra, and I think I was the same way, I hated just regular math class. I have an engineering degree. I struggled through calculus in college. But when I would do it in my engineering classes, it was no problem because you were applying it. And you were getting an outcome that you could understand. And I think we do the same thing here. It's, yes, you have to use math to analyze things and stuff. But the end game is we're looking for that performance, right? We're trying to figure out, we don't have I tell people this all the time. I say, we don't have a tab instrument that we just hook up to the building and it tells us what's happening. We've got a lot of basic measurements, and then we've got a lot of information. And we have to take those measurements and the information and the design, and we look at that picture, or that puzzle, so to speak. Some people have compared it to a puzzle that we've got to put together, and we got to figure out if it's working the right way.
Right.
And it's pretty cool, right?
Yeah.
When you can do that, and it's a lot of little skills that you put together to make it come together. And so I think it's great that you're teaching folks to do that, and we try to do that here as well.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I asked because the test and balance course in that program is their last class.
Oh, is it? Nice.
Yeah, it is the last one, and I tell them, I was like, you've learned all this stuff all along, and now we're going to bring it all together, like what you were just saying. I always like to ask, what have you heard about the class? Oh, a lot of math. And I was like, well, there is. I said, but the best part, all that stuff you learned in high school and Algebra 1, and you asked yourself, when am I ever going to use that? Ta-da, here we are.
Yep.
And today is that day. But we stepped through it. And again, the ability to get it across to people where you just say it in a different way where they can comprehend it, understand it. And nothing more rewarding whenever somebody goes, oh, okay, yeah, now I get it. So it's pretty cool.
So I'm going to ask you a question. I don't know that I've ever asked anybody this question, Brianna, so get ready. But Brian, you have a way of making things concise and simple, and I always appreciate that about you when you and I get to talk. What is your elevator speech for the service for testing and balancing?
Right.
If you meet somebody on the street that knows nothing about HVAC, right, and they ask you, "Hey, Brian, what do you do for a living?" Give me your elevator speech for EAB and test and balance.
So I'd have to say, why? Why should you hire us? Number one, like so many people say, we're going to stick with it till it's done. Okay. Those that ask me, what do I do? I was like, well, okay, it's construction. The somebody else puts it in. We tell them if it's working right or not.
Okay.
Okay, and we're going to test it. We're going to for optimum efficiency, if we want to use all the fancy words, right?
Sure.
We're gonna save you money. We're going to set it up the best way that we can, and a way that can be cost effective for you. Why should you hire us? We are oldest, largest that's out there, and I tell people, some say that we just might be the most respected that's out there also in the industry. It is a very, very unique industry. We're pretty darn good at it.
Yeah,
And
we tend to be pretty humble about it, but we are
right,
pretty good at it.
right. We are going to work with the entire team. We're going to, there will not be, and I tell, the teams that I work with, when people get nervous about going into meetings and things like that, and I overheard someone say it, and I was like, well, there is not anybody sitting in that room at that table right there that knows more about that given HVA system than what we do.
Correct.
So calm down. You're going to do fine. Answer their questions and go with it from there. But, I mean, elevator speech on why you should use us. Man, I feel like there's so many different elements to that, and I'm not a good salesman, I'll tell you that, for why you should use us. But
well, let me back up.
Mm-hmm.
If you had to pick one thing, because we always talk about the difference between EAB and other firms that do what we do, and there's a lot of them, and we've kind of put those down in our marketing materials, and obviously we talked about them internally. But what's the first one that comes to mind? Like if I asked you and I said I need an answer right this second, you don't get time to think about it. It's kind of what this is.
Right.
What do you think is the biggest thing that differentiates EAB from everyone else in our industry? And I hate to say it like that, but what's the big differentiator? What is the difference with EAB in your mind?
Right.
To Brian.
We're the total package, meaning air, water, and controls.
Mm-hmm.
That is where the big difference, I feel, comes in. So that's where we've been exposed to just about everything that's out there. We've got the resources that we're not gonna mislead you.
Sure.
If we don't have the answer, I'm going to tell you I don't have the answer, but I'll find it.
Yep.
And we got the resources, within our given branch, and then we can reach out to the other branches if we haven't seen or run into or anything like that. So the resources are so deep that we have. So we're gonna balance your air for you, set that up just right, and then we're gonna come and balance your water for you also, and set your plan up, because there's your energy hog. And that's one of the things I also like to stress to people, is that your central plant's your heart and soul of the operation. If we don't have cold water, we don't have cold air. Okay, and we can set all of that up perfectly, right to dead on numbers that we need. But if that thermostat's 2 degrees off, everybody's miserable.
Oh yeah, or the sequence doesn't work properly.
Right. Mm-hmm.
You're never going to reap the benefits of it.
Right.
Yep.
The first experience I had when a control contractor had not thoroughly checked out his work was on a MCI WorldCom project.
Okay.
And I'm standing in front of a crack unit, had the little walkie-talkies, and I was like, all right, turn this one off. That one turned off. And I was like, no, this one right here. He said, I did. And I was like, 3 rows down turned off. What are you doing? And so he had all his wires crossed and all that kind of stuff. And it was rough. But that's the total package. And we have the understanding, and we have the personnel, and well-trained personnel to provide you with optimal HVAC system.
Sure. Sure.
Yeah.
Very good. So I'll ask you my final question, because I know we're running a little bit short on time here.
Mm-hmm.
What do you love about EAB?
The people, without a doubt. The people that I work with. You know, it's work. We all have to do it. But if you're not enjoying yourself and the people that you're around, it makes it rough.
Yeah.
Like nobody likes to come at that point. Nobody likes to go to work. But if you can build that environment with your coworkers to where it is enjoyable all the time, and you have that resource to talk to people, and you're all on the same level, and you realize that you're part of a team, maybe a tiger team, that is well rounded, uh, and everybody's on the same level, and you can talk to each other. And you know, sitting in that room, I don't have all the answers, but within this room, we can provide all the answers.
Sure.
And we're not afraid to ask the question of each other, and we all realize that we don't have all the answers, but that's what we're here for as a support team. And have fun.
Yeah.
Man, it's a drag if you're not having fun with it, you know.
Sure.
So we can. I also think that's how you know you're part of a good team is whenever you can be at your peak frustration level and still poke fun at the guy.
Yeah.
And you can get him from being
There's some-
upset, angry, and he cracks a smile
There's
just
some
for
truth to
that.
that one.
Yeah, so it's a lot of fun. But I really, really enjoy the people. I enjoy being able to hand down knowledge to others and see others perform and see them rise up through the ranks with things and just know that you were a part of them developing into the balancer that they are at the time. So, yeah.
Well, appreciate your time today, Brian. Appreciate getting to know you because,
Yeah.
honestly, I did. You know, a lot of the other folks that get on here, I know their backstory,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
But you and I really haven't talked about your history here at
Yeah.
EAB. So appreciate that. Appreciate you being here, and definitely appreciate your. You have a very humble nature about you
Appreciate it.
in serving others, and appreciate that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
It shows in our team here. So,
Yeah.
yep. Thanks, Brian.
Thank you.